What's up, Shift Crew? Welcome to the live, welcome to the replay. We're having a special episode right now with Rowan Garlow. And we're going to dive into some really beautiful things that she has to share for us, as well as any sort of liberating information that you and I need right now in these times of the shift. And one of the things that we're facing right now is a lot of deception. And I think this conversation is going to be really incredible at the level that we're going to go to as far as breaking apart the paradigms that we're currently in. There's a quote by Einstein, and I'll probably say this again in a second. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. And so right now, we're going to be diving into a session, hopefully Rowan comes on soon, where we take a look at that. We get out of our own box, we get out of our own way, and get into what is necessary for the shift. So as everyone's filling in and I'm waiting for Rowan, how are you all doing? How do you actually feel right now? Oh, there she is. Boom. Just hit the join. Yes. Awesome. Here we go, Rowan. And going. In just a second, we should be connected. Hopefully it did. It worked. Yes. Awesome. Hi, good morning.
Good morning or afternoon.
Or afternoon or nighttime, or it could be winter solstice or summer solstice. Turns out we can do anything at any time at all the times.
Yeah.
So I'm going to introduce you. So stoked that you're here. For everybody who doesn't know Rowan Garlow, she is a trauma recovery practitioner specializing in the completion process, voice dialogue, and somatic experiencing. She says she is here to walk herself and others home through shifting internal dynamics brought on by trauma and assist in the rehabilitation and awakening of portions of humanity. She is here to dismantle the madness of this world from within and build something truly life-giving in its place. That is good. That is good. So just a little background. Yeah, I found you. Someone sent me an Instagram live you did a few months ago where you just kind of went free form. You just channeled all like probably 27 different characters. And it really it really lit me up. And I was just like, okay, not only is she just busting all the seriousness that's, in the new age presentation or, care presentation, but you're also bringing through a lot of codes. I could feel the codes behind the humor. And so I was like, this is a team member. What's up? So I started following you. And I also sent that video at least to about 8 people. I was like, check this out. This is how it's done. This is how we need to start having fun again and just let it rip and know that it's all good and forget all about the fucking strategy. And let's get back to humanity, right? We got to get out of this industrialization. So that's how I found you. And then I invited you to do this live. And what was beautiful, and we'll go into this first section here, is that as we started talking, you asked me questions about like 5D. What do you think about 5D? And I was like, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. The typical kind of new age, like, oh, here's 5D. Yeah, that's what's up. And you're like, well, you might want to think about it different. I was like, oh, okay, well, yeah, tell me about that. So we're going to get into that in a second. There's a lot of things we're going to cover. One of the things that I just, I got this hit before we go into that first question about what sort of deceptions that is the new age or the new earth movement running under. Just before that we get into that, I was guided last night to really just have everyone kind of elevate themselves right now to a collective level as we join in this conversation. So I got this picture of, here we are in our rooms or our holographic projections, our individualized, what I call like all you can eat jack off in a boxes. And what I want us to do is, and I'll show you a picture, is let's just go to this level with ourselves and the earth right now. Let's stay in our bodies, but let's go a little higher up, just to the edge of earth and space, and see where we really are, like the real environment beyond our personalized environments. And this is where I really want the conversation to operate from, this higher perspective of the situation or the evolution that we're all in right now. And so just bearing that in mind, I'd love to dive in things that come up for you or things you want to initially say, but also let's talk about some of those things that came up in our first conversation around, hey, maybe there's something up with that word 5D, and I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, so what was interesting was it was actually both the word infinite and the 5D thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think really when we're using the word infinite to describe like ourselves and stuff like that, the thing with language is that it can be so tricky, especially the English language, because everything has really been just watered down to the point where, you know, we normally would be able to communicate telepathically. We would have connection to a primary language, which is really more tonal and frequencies. And this English language, or really any of the languages that are being used right now on this planet, are leading us into a closed system, meaning that it's so easy to not only be using words that we don't understand, but it can also lead us to more confusion, more arguing with each other because we're actually talking about the same thing, but we're using different words. So for me personally, I don't like to use the word infinite, because for me, I associate that with the infinity symbol, this Vesica Pisces, which is really a closed loop. It does with the Godhead, and it's very dualistic. But I've also seen people who are my mentors still referring to things as infinite, eternal, like really using eternal and infinite interchangeably. So I think that's really just a personal preference of mine, and I know that there's people who actually do sort of see things the way that I see them, and they still use the word infinite because it's fine for them. They get the point of what they're trying to say. But infinite can also really break down to infinite versus eternal. We talk finite, right? These finite structures, which is what we're going to go into when we talk about the deceptions and things like that have taken place. But as far as 5G goes, or 5G, sorry, 5G, that's a whole other conversation. It's really interesting because probably a couple years ago, and a lot of you guys who have been on this journey probably recognize this yourself, that there's all these videos coming out about 5D. Everyone on YouTube, all these spiritual mentors and leaders were, and still are, describing this shift that humanity is going through right now, which is from 3D into, I don't know what happened to 4D, but we're just going to 5D. And, you know, until I started to come into this whole other body of information that we're going to talk about today, I was like, I mean, I guess I don't really get it, but okay, I guess we're going to 5D. I get it. You know, we're raising our frequency. We are expanding our consciousness, so that makes sense. But from a galactic perspective, the fifth dimension has been heavily, heavily targeted and infiltrated. And what I think has happened is that a lot of us have memories stored within our cellular DNA that says that we are actually supposed to be ascending through the fifth dimension, because that was the original blueprint and plan for us as a human species, until things started to go wrong and we started to get infiltrated. And once that happened, you know, all the way through 11.5 dimensions has been infiltrated and hijacked at this point. That doesn't mean that there's not organic architecture that still exists within those first 11.5 dimensions, but what it means is that the astral planes right now, because everything 12D and below is where we start to individuate. You get into 13, 14, 15D, those are the God realms. So that we don't need protection for. This is why people talk about 12th dimensional shields or shielding in general, because everything below that is really kind of messy waters. So, you know, when I start hearing people talk about channeling or astral projecting their bodies, I start to get a little concerned because the psychic highways and the astral highways are littered with debris right now, and they are also littered with false light beings who are really presenting themselves as something that they are not. And if you don't have, they could be Archangel Michael, it could be I'm your ET guide from another planet, that I'm your star family, whatever. People are having these really, because they're expanding their consciousness, there is the capacity for them to start to interact with these other dimensions, the other dimensions of themselves. And there's no education about what's actually going on there. And so people are unknowingly opening themselves up to be implanted in the astral, to be hijacked, to like consent basically to different types of possession. And it's pretty scary because people really, and then you can start to get almost delusional because you're really thinking, I am talking to this being, but Luciferian consciousness, which is really what has infiltrated these dimensions, is super, super sparkly. It has a way of being able to cloak itself in, if you don't really, really understand what you're looking at, and you haven't protected your own field, and you don't have the technology to do that, then, you know, it's happened to me. I had a false guide come in when I was really starting to awaken to all this stuff. I had an extraterrestrial. I actually was implanted by this being, which took me 2 years to even realize that I had a sexual implant that was put on me that was actually siphoning my sexual energy. But I know we're kind of going into a long story here, but I just want to explain this so people understand, like, when we talk about, I'll tell this story, but just to wrap up the 5D thing, we're going straight vertical. We're going, and it's not even about vertical because that even is a limitation within the language. We're going directly to source, the eternal true creator. No middleman, no in between. No, we're not taking a stop off at 5D, 6. We are, why would we stop at 5? This doesn't even make sense to me. Why would we stop at 5D when we have 12, 13, 14? We have soul or monad. We've got all these other components that are way beyond 5D. So to me, that feels like a psyop to almost keep us trapped and looping in this, 5D, and all the while we're missing a much bigger picture. So just to kind of explain what can happen in those astral realms, like, so it was right after I moved to Portland. I was coming into a lot of like Teal Swan's information and integrating that, which was that's a whole conversation. But so, I'm gonna keep it on the one. So I was meditating, and I was having this meditation where I was sitting lotus style in the ocean, and I had this rope that was attached to me, like cording me to the earth. And I was floating, down, down, down. And all of a sudden, I got this flash of like what I now know, which I had no fucking idea about at the time, is the finite flower of life. It's the artificial flower of life. It's those all concentric circles that you see that sort of make up, that you see it everywhere. People have it on their wall, behind their head. It's a very spiritual thing to do. It's this new age sacred geometry, which is a death science. Now at the time, I didn't fucking know anything about that. I was just like, oh, here's this white massive, just getting blasted with this image. I was like blown away. I'm like, whoa, I've never had an experience like, I was completely sober, never had an experience like this before. So I fall asleep, and I have this dream that I meet, because I had the intention going into the meditation to meet my guides. I wanted to know, who are my guides? And this is where people, it's like, we're like, I just want to know who my guides are. And then we're like, I'll take anything that comes through and I'll just believe that that's my guide because that's what I'm being told if we don't know anything else. So this 5 beings came through. They were undifferentiated light. And I said, can my primary guide please step forward? So this primary guide steps forward. It's an extraterrestrial very clearly. And here's the thing is that these beings will exploit your ignorance, meaning that whatever you believe to be true already, you will find a way to fit that into that narrative. So, you know, this guide kind of pulls me over. It's so weird. It sounds so weird, but we were in an astral plane on top of an abandoned Wendy's. It's so strange.
That's how they like to rock.
Pulled over to the side and I'm like, hey, so where are you from? What's your name? And this being's telling me this information. I'm feeling like, wow, this is really it, you know? And I'm like trying to remember the name and trying to, okay, I got to remember when I wake up. And then I started to feel sexual energy coming through me. I was like, whoa. I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I wasn't trying to do that. Like, I don't know what's happening. Because it seemed to be like a female. And either way, this is my guide. I wasn't trying to like have sex with this being or anything.
Right.
And so I wake up and I'm like, I start filtering what happened through what I already knew, which was, well, I've heard somewhere that these beings can, you know, it's just energy it's just all energy. So maybe I was feeling it as sexual energy, but really for them, it's not like that. And the face of this being was kind of coming in and out of existence. Like the cells of the face, like I could tell that it was an ET because it was trying to show itself as something else. And what did I filter that through? I said, oh, well, it must have just not wanted to scare me. So it was trying to present itself in a way that I would be able to accept it and understand it without being freaked out, because some of these ETs look a little strange. Again, right? And I just was like, okay, that's my guide. And then I start hooking into that field. And it took me years to realize, holy shit, that was a being that was cloaking itself as an ET. I don't even know what that thing was. And I consented in that moment to it hooking into me, and it was siphoning off me for years. So that's a fun little side story to throw in.
There is, okay, well, by the way, for everyone just joining, this Instagram Live is going to go for 2 days straight because there's a lot to cover here. So, and Rowan's already kicked off multiple angles here. I really want to acknowledge what you had just said too about there's a lot of discernment, there's a lot of training that's necessary. We are, you know, there's a lot to understand that what's going on here. We are living not only as observers of creation, but we are also extensions of that which we observe. We are the creation itself. And so we're coming into a level of not just relearning, but actual remembering as this kind of unity of our energy bodies comes back online. But I love what you were saying, no middleman. You know, we've been living in kind of a middleman paradigm or a child parent paradigm, and we're coming out of that into a paradigm of equality. You know, the Aquarian age is where it's just like what you vibe with is what you're going to match with, but you're free to go anywhere on that level. Now, there's a lot you brought up. The one thing I want to catch, that artificial flower of life, or I called it the artificial flower of life. I've actually had a direct experience on a similar level as you with that. I'm also no plant medicines. I'm sober. I'm a heavy meditator. And on 2 occasions, I've had a direct experience where I ended up in a complete, you know, kind of like in the Matrix when they enter that white room, it's completely white. And before me was a singular kind of like black flower of life. And all the circles were kind of made out of rainbow colors. And as I stared into it, like this kind of black rainbow cosmic gas or dust envelops my senses, and that's what makes me dream this life. So I was having moments of sobriety of like, oh, actually, maybe all of us are sitting in a certain dimensional plane where there's nothing, but this black flower of life has us kind of gassed or hooked. And I had that moment of clarity of like, oh shit, I'm actually enveloped in a gas from this flower of life, or a weird, it's seeping out of it. And I can have moments where I'm like, oh, okay, it's over there and I'm over there. And I'm like in the white room and I'm like, well, what the fuck is this flower of life thing? Like it's a kind of a drug machine, or, you know, a dream machine, reality and a developer thing. And I'm like, okay, this might be the first step up to our real sobriety here. Like you said, we're talking about many, many dimensions. We're talking about, often I love to talk also about dimensions as the biology of existence. We are navigating a macro body, micro bodies within a macro body of our own selves. So really what we're learning, you know, and I'm a firm believer that this, I mean, and this is all up for debate too, our actual physical structure can be like mini maps of the macro map. And as we learn our inner biology, we're also learning our outer biology at the same time. But with that understanding of no middleman and having total freedom and liberty of where we choose to go. So like you were saying, why stop at 5D? That's a trap. Now, for anybody who's really new to this, what is that, how do we know this architecture, or what is this coming from a school? What is this architecture of all the dimensions, like you said, going all the way up to 12, and then we're getting into the God level dimensions? Where's this coming from? How does someone like learn more about this?
So, well, okay, I'll answer that question, but then I want to go back a little bit to
Sure. Yeah.
Look into quantum morphogenetic physics, because
Okay.
in perspective, that, at least with what I know right now, that seems to be the most clear understanding of what is going on, like what's the mechanics of our actual existence, because quantum morphogenetic physics comes from, and it comes from the God tablets. So it's the oh my God, what is the word? I'm really new to learn about morphogenetic physics. It's something that's very, very fascinating. There's a man named Dr. Jerry Rivera Duhenio, who has a podcast called Jerry Unfiltered. It's JERE Unfiltered. And he also has a Bioregenesis University. And he goes way back into the history of how this information, this technology, because that's really what it is, goes like way, 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 way farther back than, I wish I had my fucking notes in front of me. It's the
Sure.
Mahabharata, the Indian Mahabharata texts. I hope I'm saying. Those texts were actually written out of these discs that we have. And then even prior to those discs, there's what they call like the source discs, and there's only ever one recorded picture of the discs. There was 12 of them. 10 of them were originally held in like a private collection of some sort, and then we actually found the other 2 in the 90s. And this is what these people have been decoding. And so this kind of gets us into the fact that like a lot of that truth really is woven into all of these different religions, all of these different traditions. But at the same time, these traditions were hijacked. The mystery schools were all hijacked a long time ago and infiltrated, so that we kind of have enough of a truth in there to where it registers in our being as something that feels familiar. But there's a deception and a distortion in there, which leads us into that closed system, back into a loop of some kind, instead of actually intending. But I wanted to just because I can't not say it, and I don't fully yet have a perspective formed on this, but I know everyone says we're in the age of Aquarius, but there's also quite a few people who have been studying quantum astrology and have really feel as though we're not in the age of Aquarius, that's actually a distortion. And so there's people who are decoding the way that we've been sort of like one cycle off within astrology, and that it's its own kind of artificial overlay
Yeah.
that get put into the same way that these archetypal personalities could be sort of capping us in different ways. But that's a whole other conversation. And then I wanted to touch on two other things. One of the things that you said, which was about this finite flower, this flower of life, which is what New Age would call it. And what you were describing with those gases like coming off that black, it sounds like you were really experiencing firsthand this death harness, the way that the death technology actually functions and siphons from organic code and siphons from beings who actually are coded to be directly connected to source. Because when we talk about the fall, we're talking about beings that chose to operate outside of eternal creation. And so they don't contain their own creation code. They have to siphon that off of other individuals, which is why we see all of the deception that we do, even though, because of the natural law of consent, they are required to disclose what they're doing. It's just you have to be able to see it for what it is.
Yeah.
But the death harness sounds like that's what you were experiencing. And then
that's a good word for it. Harnessed, like cattle harnessed, or
like harness. Like some of it literally looks like it's like a death trap that's been like placed for the planet, that's like sucking us into a fucking black hole. And then what you said about this map, this internal, it was sort of like, I think you were saying this microcosm of the macrocosm. And I think that's so important to name, because when we go within and we start to actually, through inscension, which is really what we're doing now, because ascension is sort of out of the question at this point, we start to realize that we are a microcosm. And in some ways that's beautiful, because we have true organic coding. We are seeing, like, I'm looking out the window, I'm looking at a tree. That is an example of organic life that still exists on this planet. That's not an artificial construct or a simulation. But then we also start to go within and notice, okay, there's all of this stuff that's artificial, that's not really me, that's anti-life technology, that is reflective of, where did we pick that up? We picked it up from this macrocosm of this familial, social, cultural, global culture and soup that we're sort of swimming in. And that's how we shift the external artificial, is by clearing that out from within ourselves.
That is kind of where your somatic experiencing comes into play. Like, how do we shake? We got to literally sing or shake or meditate the code or the hijack or the harnessing out of us,
Right. And it happens quite organically. Like, so all of the modalities that I use are all things that I've had really great experiences with in healing my own trauma, in creating awareness around different patterns and being able to shift them, because you don't make it to whatever age you are without being traumatized on this planet. That needs to be just everyone needs to understand that they have experienced trauma. That is really one of the biggest reasons for why they're suffering so much, why their life looks the way that it does, because of unhealed and unresolved trauma. And it's through these different modalities. Somatic experiencing is kind of different than maybe what you think, because it's not just about the somatic sensations, but it's so hard to explain somatic experiencing, but without actually experiencing it, which but all of those things help us to basically complete either self-protective responses that we never got to complete. Somebody went to hit us and then we were never able to be sovereign and defend ourselves because we were a child. We look at the different parts of a person's psyche within voice dialogue? What are these fragmented aspects of self that get, because this is, I mean, trauma creates fragmentation. The world that we live in is literally designed to fragment your consciousness, to scatter you so that you can't be unified and actually come into direct cognition with source God. And then looking at completion process, that's inner child work. We go back in time, we change timelines and actually collect these fragments from around the time matrix, because when we fragment, we're not just fragmenting, but we're literally fragmenting in time and space. So we have aspects of us that are 5 years old that are stuck in our old home. We have, and then we wonder why we don't have a lot of energy, why we're not as clear as we could be, because we don't even have all of our consciousness. We're like a river that's been split 1,000 times, and then the amount of water getting into our main stream has been just sort of scattered.
That is very much in attunement with what traditional, also shamanic healing, that and the way I've kind of given an analogy, it's like, you know, when we look at how the government every year has discretionary and non-discretionary spending in their budget, like every day you renew, but you have committed pre-commitments to where your energy is already going to be spent across time, right? So like you said, 5-year-old, 10-year-old trauma, all the different traumas is assigned to be maintaining and sustaining that link to those frozen moments or those traumatic moments. And so really, as beings of energy, really our full-time job right now is literally to heal ourselves, to, you know, recapitulate or retrieve those energies, reintegrate them into our now, and then get trained on, well, what the hell do you do when you've retrieved your 100% or your 1000% of self back into the now? We don't even know where to go once we've retrieved ourselves, because like you're saying, we are, as to borrow this title from the book, being civilized to death. And we've been normalized to a system that's like, well, you just do this and do that, and this is how it is, and that's just the way life is. It's like, fuck, you know, wake up, humanity. We're straight up a slave species right now. And we are allowing it because free will is the law. But again, we are so deep into it that we don't have any clear pictures of what life or existence is like once we would get ourselves out of it. And therefore, this is kind of like, we are very, like, our matrix, our biology and our psychology has been hijacked because we're very good psychologically at creating sustaining patterns for efficiency's sake. We don't wake up every morning having to relearn our entire world in order to function. We have cellular memory about how to operate. That cellular memory is what's used against us. So we're all running a very strong cellular memory of not doing a whole hell of a lot compared to our potential, as we are essentially cattle in this civilization.
Yeah, a food source.
Yeah, a food source.
And as far as free will goes, you know, we say free will is, but most people do not have free will.
Right.
Most people are not aware of the fact that they're not acting out of free will because of everything that you just described. We're on a habituated, automated system that, you know, is cause and effect. And if there's no consciousness that comes into that cause and effect, we will just repeat the same things over and over again. And there's no actual access to choice, because choice is a byproduct of becoming conscious and aware of opposites, pairs of, if we understand duality and we can zoom far enough back, like that picture of the earth, we zoom far enough back, that's our axis of choice. But, you know, and it's like, it's sad because when we look at what's happening in the world right now with these medical treatments that are being pushed on people, you know, it's like, oh, well, we should just, you know, let people have free will. And it's like, those people they have no fucking idea what they're doing. They're not using their free will. they're caught in a trap where they're being harvested on. Those are prisoners of war. Those are our people. And then, yeah, like you were saying, it's like, okay, when we retrieve all those aspects, which I have yet to do, you know, I'll let you guys know if that ever happens. I'll probably just fucking go through a Stargate or something and be gone, disintegrate. So good luck with that. But exactly what you said is like, we don't know what we would even do if that were the case. And that's the piece of information that's missing. What quantum morphogenetics physics is teaching is the actual mechanics of how do you phase your consciousness, how do we bilocate our consciousness, and how do we actually translocate our entire physical body, how do we move when we're dying. We're not taught like what angle to leave our body at, which we should be leaving 45-degree angle, because that's actually eternal technology, instead of a 60-degree angle, which everything finite sciences, right? You look at something like that artificial flower of life, looking at 60-degree angles, which make what? A triangle, which is what? The Illuminati. It's all back into that whole death trap.
Right.
So really, that's what I'm trying to educate myself on, so that not only so that I can bilocate my consciousness and really be able to come into full cosmic citizenship, which is what our birthright is. We are not a people if we cannot move freely within the dimensions that we are a part of. You know, we have all of these aspects of self that we're totally unaware of, and we should have access to like moving freely within the dimensions. I should be able to dematerialize and rematerialize right now. And until we can do that, we're not really fully sovereign beings. We're just getting
that actually is covered in a very old book called The Right Use of Will. And they talked about, before we did the biological slave race type of thing where we like are birthed into the slave, we would just materialize, dematerialize. That was it. You were unattached. You would come in, come out. You want to be a dragon, you want to be whatever. And you just did what you did. And then there's the Luciferian technology comes in and starts to work with, actually, they talked a lot about in that book about shame and guilt and trapping the self in the mirror, because basically these free beings, somehow they would show the beings like a mirror, and then they trained beings to look into a mirror and then judge themselves for what they saw. And it's a whole deep history, but guess what? Guess where that history is? It's in this flesh. We are literally the living libraries of that story. It is nowhere else in here. So when we're doing clearing, we are clearing out with that history. We're not just, 7 generations of history. We are all of the existence history in this flesh. And this is kind of an interesting segue into my second question that I had for you. What we're popping out of, like you said, to be able to freely go where we want to go, in order to really embody and trust and have security or strength or bravery in that freedom, we have to erase, again, this kind of weird parent-child relationship where when we use the word God, or how it's been used in captive religions, there is someone who above you deciding where and how you can go. And so I know a lot of, what I've been speaking about recently is that kind of equality of your authority to be on an equal plane. And there's a lot of distortion or trauma in there around, like, you mean I'm free to go, or I'm free to do what I want, or I don't have to ask for permission, or I won't be punished if I go out of this dimension, or if I decide to create my own dimension, or like there's a lot of like that around us. And it's just curious, a lot of, I feel like you did this in a post recently. You were talking about you had a recent transformation around the word, the concept, the reality of God itself, and what that means to you, as well as God's army. And I'd love for you to go into that, because I feel, again, a lot of people are coming from religion and the trauma of religions, and that the word, it's got a lot of static around it.
Yeah, yeah. And there's two, I think before I even go into that, it's important that there's two really extreme polarities that we see coming out of the whole God concept. We either have individuals, and this is not to like say, oh, it's them, somebody out there. It's like I've experienced this directly. It's either we go so far as to believe, I am God. I am God so much so that I can do whatever I want to do. That's very Luciferian. That's do as I will, without a connection to this greater picture that we're a part of. So this side is, I'm God and we're all gods and this is just right. We can get a little too far down that path.
Yeah.
And then we can go to the other side, which is this more like traditional religious lens, which is God is an evil punisher and or the wrath of God, and you better submit to the will of God. But it's not in like a submit humbly to the fact that this is an eternal creator that you're walking in service of. It's like it can get really distorted to this. There's this sky daddy out there and he's watching you. I mean, what does that do to people? It's so fucking creepy. Like, okay, so I can't be alone in my own thoughts. I mean, it does all kinds of weird shit to people. But so my, I grew up, and I've spoken about this before, but I grew up Baptist, and I've been through many, many phases of New Age spirituality and agnostic and atheist and everything in between, back to Christianity, and just coming through all these different loops. But right now, my relationship to the word God, I had so much resistance to that word God. It's like, ugh, God, people talk about God, and just even hearing them say it was just like, I just don't know about that. It's like I have so many bad things associated with it. And I had to like unhook all of that which had been externally placed on that word, and really come back to an understanding with myself that like, I'm not going to get out of this shit by myself, being disconnected from the creation, from the creator. I'm not going to actually be able to walk home, because I'm actually humble enough to realize that this so much bigger than me. This isn't about me. And I literally don't have the strength to be able to do this by myself. I have literally had to and it's so bizarre because I just never thought I would be here, but I've literally had to get on my knees. And it's so funny because I heard you do a video the other day. It was like, stand up.
Right.
Talking about kind of different things, because it's like people get on their knees and then we want them to rise up and realize that they are powerful. But I literally had to get on my knees and just be like, fucking please help me to deliver me from these distortions, because I'm struggling. I'm struggling with addiction. I don't know how to stop being sucked into these loops. And it's just like, whatever the will of the one true source is, like, I'm ready to walk in that. I don't care how painful it is. I've already lived enough pain. I don't care how uncomfortable it is. I don't care who you have to remove from my life. Just please fucking deliver me from these distortions. So that's my relationship right now. And I'm in a relationship every day by sitting in nature. It's very simple. Connecting with what is organic that's here. And in those moments, I feel supported. I feel it in every cell of my body. What gets me through is that communion.
And so one of the other terms, God's army, what is that? How does that evolve from God to God's army?
Yeah. So I think that we are, for many of us who remember really who we are and what we're doing, we may come from different places, but ultimately we come from the same source. And we really are on the front lines right now at this time. This is a really big time to be here, because a lot of beings are like really dying to get in here. If you are here during this wave of this ascension cycle, we're really nearing the end of this particular cycle. We have but another 200 years. And that's not very long. So to be
Yeah.
coming at the tail end of something like this, we're the front line, we're the ground crew who are transmuting this stuff through our own bodies. This is no small task.
Yeah.
And if you do remember who you are and you're taking steps towards that, you're walking with you're leading an army and you are the army. You're in the army and you're leading an army. And not everyone is meant to lead on the front lines. We're all a different part of the car, and we need all of those different parts.
Yes.
No one part is better than the other, but some of us are called to speak, some of us are called to teach, some of us are called, there are people in God's army that you will never see, that you will never hear from, that are working day in and day out, and you will never know it. So I think we're all part of that team, really.
Yeah, that's really potent. Again, to that collective, like I again go back to my own body, like, okay, it's just a fingernail, but yeah, try living without your fingernails, right? And all the, 5 trillion cells that you'll never quote unquote see with your eyes, but you are in communion and collective power with. This is potent, and I want to share too, because I think a friend of mine was saying decolonize the word God, and this is important. I've had the privilege of learning directly from Mexico, I lived there for many years, Central Mexican teachers of the Mexica and Toltec lineages, so elders, scholars, and practitioners. And in that time, I learned their language, which is the language of Nahuatl. And in Nahuatl, it's considered a language of harmony. And I love when we began this conversation too, when we were meant to be speaking in tones. English itself is a trap. There's actually interesting videos you can watch on YouTube how there are actually 2 forms of English, a French and a Germanic version of English. And the French version was used by royalty to subjugate or trap people. So it's a very fascinating, we're using a very interesting language itself. But to listen to in Nahuatl, their main word for God is Teotl. And Teotl, the best translation of that is not God, but the sacred. And so it's a beautiful, just pure energy. And the source energy for them is called Senteotl. And that really translates to one unity, or one, the sacred, the pure potential before creation. And I think what this is leading us to, again, is the map. Like, who are we? Where are we? When we recapitulate our energies from the trap. And that system needs to come online, the clarity of that landscape, our true arena of existence. Needs to come back online. And again, we are now needing to decode or decolonize English, and create part of our task here is to create a new global language that wipes away all the traps and then says, hey, our task is to create a language that is like almost the pure mirror to the heavens, and we ground that on the earth. What is a language? And you can study Nahuatl and get a clue about what that is. And there are many ancient Sanskrit as well, and ancient Hebrew. They are shown to have these similar origins of when you get clear and you observe directly existence, the true arena in which we exist, then you form what is the language of harmony that mirrors accurately, with no deception, no distortion, our own truth. Yeah. And then from there, you build a civilization, because then we're spelling, right, creations from the coding, right? So we got the code, and then we create. And that is the only true path to creating what I say call like a sacred civilization, as we dismantle our involvement in a slave society or slave civilization. If we're still going to operate here, our next best chance is to create a sacred civilization in harmony with original, what some people would call a sacred law.
Yeah, or natural law, which is what we really originally were doing before the NB. And many may remember that because they have a feeling in their body like there's something so wrong and perverted and inverted about this plane. You know, why is there so much suffering? Why is there so much pain? Why is there so much disconnection? And they have a remembrance within themselves of a time when that was not the case. And yeah, so interestingly, the and I want to make sure I'm saying this right, but I'm probably not. Either Anuhazi or Anusazi. That is actually the earliest language that was ever spoken, ever. You know, this is like pre-ancient civilization. That is as far back as we have is the Anusazi, and those are tonals, you know, ra, ka, a, la, ho, you know, those kind of things. And I'm starting to learn that language, and it's incredible because, so this is again from Dr. Jerry Rivera Dueño, and from these original source tablets, it basically activates your DNA at a whole other level, because those tones are something that are stored within us. And so when we come into contact with any of this information, Anasazi, thank you for the 2 people that put that on there.
Yeah.
Come into contact with any of this information, not only is it about really checking in with ourselves and seeing like something like, I remember something about this, but we want to make sure we're really slowing down enough to be discerning, because we have been placed in so many traps that it can be hard, you know, especially like me, when I came out of the New Age spirituality trap and all that is encompassed within that, I was like, oh my God, how can I trust anything anymore? How can I trust that now what's being given to me as a correction of the New Age is even something that, you know, people talk about galactic history, and how do I know that all of this galactic history that's being given to me is accurate? And those are all things that we should question. And until we have a direct cognition experience, I think a lot of things should be up for trial, because we really have been deceived so many times. How do we know that we're not entering into another level of deception? And this goes for any and all teachers, that teachers are not to be put on a pedestal. Either of us in this talk, we are not to be held as authorities necessarily on anything, just that we're sharing a perspective. You are the ultimate authority of your own being. And it is really up to us to take radical responsibility for discerning and deciphering and sitting with things long enough to see what's really going on here. And it's okay if we don't know.
This has been part of my practice, is to again clear out the debris, the attachment, the chemistry of excitement to history of myself, and really tap into, like, I just go direct with the earth, to be honest. Like, I've learned a lot of information, but then I take that information, I stick it in the soil, and I let the soil tell me if it's true or not. And that has actually been one of the best paths for me, is just let the soil, let the earth tell you. Because where we are, when you use your eyes clearly, and you're not just looking at what civilization is doing, but you're looking at the entire universe, which is never hidden from you, by the way. Like, this is the most hilarious thing. Nothing is ever hidden from us. And so we as a culture don't spend jack shit for time just looking, because when you just look and you observe, you're looking at the hands of the creator who has created. And within that creation, which you are not separate from, is the process. You can learn the process of how something starts, how something lives and dies and then is reborn, just by looking. I mean, we just see it in our 4 seasons, but we are also, you know, this is through sacred recordings of for the Hindus, right? They understand the yugas, right? We understand we're in a very large time scale of life called the yugas. So, God, there was something in there too about, that's a big sticky point too for me. The whole, like, everyone's saying these words like Galactic Federation. I'm like, that does not stick well with me when we use the word Galactic Federation. I say total bullshit to that, but I understand that it seems like a continuation of the crap politics or the trauma of being politicized on this planet, and we're trying to throw that into the universe. And I'm like, I don't ever want to throw a governmental form on life out into the universe. So I reject that word. Galactic Federation.
Yeah. And anybody who is associated with that or claims to be bringing in information from the Galactic Federation, I have no interest in, because of the same. It's a hot mess.
Yeah.
There was something you said that I wanted to just touch on too, which is I noticed quite a few years ago that we really devalue direct cognition as a collective. We do not value direct cognition. Somebody can tell you that they have directly experienced something.
Yeah.
And the answer that you will get from a lot of people is, well, how can you know that that's true? And how do your experience is so subjective. How can you really know that that's actually what happened? Your scope of being able to perceive is so limited that how do you really know? And I think, okay, kind of, I get that. All right. Yeah, we should all be holding these experiences up against each other and really looking at maybe what's going on here, exploring this, because in a lot of ways we are limited. We might be looking at something, think that this is what's happening. Like, look at mainstream science and the way that looks at life. It's like, you may think that that's what's happening, but if you don't have the larger picture, you're missing a piece. So I get that. But at the same time, that to me, this belief that like we can't know, we just can't possibly know, and there's no way that we could know, because it's like that's just to totally discount that we have direct cognition. And that's a cop-out in a way too, to just not have to, it's like, well, I just don't believe anything because how could anyone ever know? And then now we know nothing. It's like, but you're experiencing life. You are a direct vessel of experience. So that's worth something, that is worth something. And I just think it's so important to say that.
Yes.
And then one in the comments wrote, a lot of New Age teachers have savior complexes, in my opinion. Yeah, I think there's a line to that, because I think our ego, certain pathologies in us, maybe we feel insignificant and we haven't resolved that. Maybe we want to be seen. There could be any number of things that is sort of sitting in the subconscious that's driving our decisions to be a savior of some kind. I don't know. I'm certain that happens. It does. And then I also think that there's people who, and perhaps there's still more pathologies to clear, but who are genuinely like here to save themselves and to save other people from the death trap, like from being recycled over and over again. That's kind of what I think is happening. It's like I talk to my mother and she's tired. I'm tired. I don't want to keep doing this anymore, but has not done the work to actually get herself out of the trap. So like, honey, like we gonna be here, like you gonna keep coming back over and over again, because and not out of choice, out of determinism, if you don't figure this shit out. So like in a way, like I hope that we save people, because we're saving them from a finite galaxy which will be fully consumed and assimilated into a fucking black hole, and we got to find a way to literally get our consciousness out of this shit. I mean, that sounds fucking crazy, but it's what's happening.
I'm actually going to go into your post about the black hole in a second. It's a big thing that used to get me, and I rant about this, like, excuse my English, but how many of you motherfuckers have actually been to the planet? You actually haven't been to planet Earth. You've actually been in a state of trauma, in a holding stage. And so in the new age, it's like, oh, this is my last lifetime. You haven't even had a fucking official lifetime. Okay? You haven't had one yet. You have not gotten to the real Earth. You are in traumatic reaction to a civilization based in deception. That's what you're wanting to heal and escape. Totally get that. But as far as the earth goes, very few people have actually been to the earth. And we have to wake up to that, you know. Noticing people here too, also dropping some big comments.
Yeah, I said exactly. Once is to share your knowledge, other is to say they are the only truth. We must be able to exchange info and be able to still learn. So yeah, for sure. Yeah, I get that. If we're like, this is the way, I mean, run the other direction. If someone's like, this is the only way towards ascension, like Jesus is the only, it's like, okay, slow down. I think it depends on the program. In my Tantra teacher training, I've gone into my deepest work of my life, deep trauma dive. Okay. I just have to throw it out there because for maybe anybody else who's watching this, and I have, Stacey, probably was a great experience for you. That teacher may have been totally with the program, and I hope that was the case. It sounds like you got a lot out of that, but a lot of the Tantra that's being taught right now, a lot of the people who are coming in who are like, I am a sexual goddess priestess and I'm a Tantra this and I'm going to go in. I have heard so many experiences from people having re-traumatizations in Tantra workshops. People who have no fucking idea what they're doing and literally opening up sexual portals to sexual demons to start flying around the room and possessing people and doing all kinds of weird shit. Because sexuality is a huge way that we have been infiltrated, a huge way that we get siphoned off of. And I have had immense direct experience with this, more so than anything else. So I'm not going to go visit a fucking Tantra workshop because I don't know who these people are. I don't know what's going on with them. I don't know what kind of sexual demons it's not even their fault. It's like none of these people's fault. It's just that we're living in a fallen realm. And so we don't even know until we know. And then it's like, oh God, maybe there's another layer to this. So when I hear the word Tantra, I'm like, there are people who are teaching genuine, unperverted, uninfiltrated Tantra, but in my opinion, it's like a very small percentage of people that are doing that. So I just want to...
No, brilliant. And again, a lot of what is being practiced in the New Age is really just it's kind of an egoic lifestyle that allows you to just kind of get by, but not really transcend or wake up to everything we've been laying out here, which is like, yo, there's a death trap here. You know, that a lot of wellness is great, but it only makes you a better, longer lasting cattle to stay in the matrix of this kind of false light thing. So there is a lot that is not being communicated in the realms of westernized yoga or westernized Tantra to the level that we naturally are coming from. And that's where I'm holding a big, like, I don't know, just metallic bat or staff, just like, no more. Like, yo, no more. Like, I'm not, just, there's so many just getting by things, like conscious music festivals, or again, just like all this shit is just more chemical stimulation that is not based in liberation. So speaking of liberation, there's a brilliant post that really lit me up that you put out the other week called Exiting the Black Hole. And I felt, I'm going to read it here and we can dive into it, because I felt like what I read between the words was the technology, was the awareness. And that's really what I want to bring through here. Because again, this is like, wake up, you know? So in your post, I'll read it here. Exiting the black hole. The hole is a place many of us have been to many times. It's a place where everything seems to go dark, a place where trauma is reactivated, and we descend a reverse spiral to a black hole hell. It's a place where every artificial program we have yet to clear from our bodies screams. We feel as though that we will never be able to climb our way out. We are tired and oftentimes broken down from the abuse carried out in the many realms. Many of us live in the hole for so long, we lose hope. Hope becomes a guaranteed suffering. Hope in this case is nothing more than a platform to stand on in the hole from which we will all inevitably fall. So how does one get out of this hole, and how do we stay out? And then your second answer to that is, we remember we are God's army. We reinstate our wings to fly. And we see that for every entrance, there is an exit. We are given manuals for resurrecting our fallen architecture, and these libraries are coded within. We have to still get enough to, we have to get still enough to feel them. And we have to surrender ourselves to the one true creator God. We are God's army, and we aren't weak. We can and will do this by locating the doorway that leads us back to the open system. The moment we unbind or unblind ourselves from the exit, we see what access to choice we have and rise up. At first, it may feel as though we are batting around in the dark and gripping at any chunk of dirt we can find to pull ourselves out. We do this one step at a time. Even our wings need time to adjust. So we rise one layer at a time, but we rise. The exit is always available. And when we remember who we are and take that first step, we did not come here to passively collapse down into black holes. We came to fly out, guide others out, and seal up these holes once and for all. It's potent. Like, what the fuck else is anybody else doing? Of course, dealing with our nano traumas and the specificities, but the macro context is also what we have to keep in mind. And I felt like this post really nailed that. But this concept of nothing is ever closed. So we feel trapped, we're in a black hole, but the exit is never deceived or cloaked in a way. It's there. How do we find those? How do we find the exits?
So this is important because all of that, like what you just read, like you said, it applies to the macro and the micro in bodies. And I wrote that because it really relates to trauma. It relates to what happens when, I mean, we just think about a black hole. Just forget about this black hole that's attached to our Milky Way galaxy. Forget about the black hole technologies that are sucking us all this external shit. Let's just focus on what's happening internally. When you feel depressed, when you feel like you're spiraling, which is why they call it a spiral, because you're literally going in a reverse spiral instead of a spiral. And it feels like you are falling, like you can't, it's this overwhelming negative emotion. It's despair, grief, sadness, all of those things that literally feel like a black hole. And what that does to us is we get tunnel vision. Like we can't see that we're in a black room and there's actually a window like right behind us and it's open and we could crawl out that window. But all we can see is the trauma vortex. So we get stuck in a trauma vortex of just shit and shit and shit and shit. And there's no way out. And I don't know how I'm going to get out. And it's very simple because, and there's a lot of other teachers that have spoken about this. Notice what's happening. So we have to slow down. How do we get out of the internal black hole? How do we get out of a spiral? Through attention. Through what are we paying attention to? Through our presence, through our focus, the same way that we would focus at a child who is spiraling through anger or sadness or whatever. We sit with that child. We sit with ourselves. Okay, we're falling down a black hole. I know it feels like it's crushing you from the inside. It feels like, I mean, for some people who experience emotions at such a visceral somatic level, it can quite literally feel like you are dying. Like you are, I mean, being crushed. Your heart is crushed. Your chest is being crushed. It's so painful. This is part of the reason why people commit suicide, because they are in so much pain and they are alone in that pain and they see no way out of that pain. So we get really present. Okay, what is happening right now? What is this telling me? We have to stop resisting the emotion. So we have to stop pushing against it. No, it shouldn't be here. I shouldn't feel this way. You should be asking yourself, why does it make perfect sense that I feel this way right now? Instead of what's wrong with me, why does this make sense? Oh, it makes perfect sense, actually, because let's take a look around. Let's take a look at the context of your family. Let's take a look at the context of your environment. Okay, so that makes sense. That can ease up a little bit of some of the shame and constriction that we have around those emotions, so we can actually let them come through, let them be there. That's the first step, is what am I feeling? Can I allow that to be here? Then we may notice a little bit of relief, actually, because now we're not pushing against ourselves. And suffering, that chronic, like long suffering, is a byproduct of not paying attention and resolving the pain that's happening. So suffering is not really necessary. Pain is going to happen, but that's an indicator light that something is needing our attention. Right. So, okay, if we're in suffering, well, what pain has been ignored for so long that it became chronic? Okay, so we pull, kind of look at the resistance too. We can't just plow over the resistance. For some people, that's going to take genuine healing of, well, when was it not okay for you to feel your feelings? When was it, what are you afraid is going to happen right now? If you allow yourself to feel this, oh, I'm afraid I'm going to be consumed by it, like it's a tidal wave and it's going to kill me. Well, it's interesting, right? Because don't you already kind of feel like you're dying? And not only that, but that's the mentality of a child, right? A child who has never been taught how to regulate their own emotions, what emotions are, would feel like they are being consumed by a tsunami, because we require somebody outside of us as a child with our nervous system developing to help to regulate, to co-regulate us. If we don't have that co-regulation, then we're just like, I don't know. There's nothing that's going to help me. I'm going to fucking lose it. So we have to actually heal the trauma around feeling itself. Once we have resolved that and we can ease up that resistance a little bit, you can do this by talking to the parts of you that are resistant to feeling through voice dialogue. You can do this through simply self-inquiry and seeing what comes up, locating that memory of yourself. Oh, okay, yeah, I remember my dad used to tell me to shut up because I was crying. Oh, don't be stupid, stop crying, it's not okay to be angry, this isn't okay. Go see that child, bring your consciousness into that timeline. Look at that child and tell me, do you think that child should shut up? Do you think that child should stop talking? Do you think it's valid that they feel that way? Yeah, it is. Okay. So what needs to happen for resolution? Does this kid need to punch dad in the face? I mean, this is all happening in a visual context, and also through the body. What's coming through the body's narrative that needs resolve? Then we come back, once we've dealt with that layer, and we can go a little bit deeper to what is happening here. What is the architecture that has fallen within my being that needs to be resurrected? And in some cases, it just needs to dissolve because it wasn't yours to begin with. It was simply inherited from your intergenerationally or throughout many lifetimes.
Right.
There is relief in every layer of that process until we come back to the truth of ourselves, which is that, yeah, it makes sense why you would feel that way. We got to learn to validate our own emotions. We have to learn to understand, what is that emotion telling me that I need? Can I get that need met? Can I meet that need directly? Is it something I can meet? No. If it's not, then can I advocate for that child to collaborate with someone to try to get that need met? And then you see, oh, now suddenly, now there's choice, now there's agency, now there's sovereignty over my life to do something different. Even if this one step I'm going to take out of this black hole, it may not be creating the perfect life that I want, but it's a step to get you there. It's one step closer to that sovereignty.
There's, in that post, thank you for laying that out. I think that's been incredibly helpful. And that seems to be the main theme, is feel and we're emerging out of an industrialized human experience where feeling has been rubbed out, wiped out, not made okay. In the corporate world, you know, that still is the case. To create a culture, a civilization that values our warning lights, our warning signals, like, oh, I'm off or I'm in pain. Let me feel that. Let me find the inner architecture. Like you said, that was brilliant too. Like, yeah, some of the inner architecture, we're here to build it up, but some of it is just like, well, I'm not going to continue building that architecture at all. Actually, that's not even my blueprint. It's not even worth, in some ways, this is an interesting thing. Some things don't need healing. They just need throwing away because they're like, am I trying to heal an architecture that I'm not going to even use? Why don't I just clear my attachment to it rather, and just be like, what else do I want to create? And a little paradigm shift that I feel is vital to give to people, even though we can be in, like, and this is beautiful, again, the technology of the spiral. The negative spiral and the positive spiral, the counterclockwise or clockwise. This is very ancient, you know, technology that is understood. The way you spin, it matters. That, where was I headed with that? That you're always in power. This is an important thing. Though you may be spiraled counterclockwise into a black hole, it took your power to get there. So often we can live in the paradigm like, once I'm healed, I'll be powerful. No. You're never not powerful. Your power can never be taken from you. Your power can only be convinced in you or chosen by you to go in a direction to have an experience. But whatever experience you have, you're going to have it at 100%. Be that trauma or depression or the negative spiral. You're in that thing at 100% of your energy. So what I always like to say is like, look, you already prove that your choices work. You already prove that you have choice, even though it doesn't seem like you chose it. You were numbed out, like you said, like earlier we were talking about, like, people don't really kind of have choice because they're given, like, they're supposedly given two choices, but it's actually the same choice, which is not to choose their freedom. So there's a lot of people thinking they're in choice, but it's really, I got you here or I got you here. But to realize you're not waiting for your power to return, you've got to wake up to the fact that your power is being used against you. You've got your power, and you already proved that wherever it goes, you experience it. Now feel the quality of the vibration or the emotions that you have chosen. Mm-hmm. And now you get to heal or unchoose and go in new directions or whatever that is for you.
Yeah, absolutely. There's one thing I want to, a single sentence about,
yes.
And I said this on my story 1,000 times. I will keep saying this until I literally croak. And this is information coming from Dr. Jerry Rivera, from quantum morphogenetic physics. And this is one of the distortions within the New Age movement, is this languaging of, and you didn't say, you just said the quality of the vibration, but when people talk about raising their vibration, they talk about becoming more dense, because a high vibration is a dense energy. A high oscillating energy is an expansive energy. So we have expansion is oscillation, vibration is contraction. So that's really important for people to understand, because, right, again, we're spelling, and if it's like, raise your vibration rate, what you're telling people to do is become more dense, to become denser than they already are. And he has this great post, which I just put on my story the other day, which said, higher oscillating frequencies will always transmute higher vibrational, denser frequencies. So if we really want to go there, we should be saying, like, and not that you said this, but I just, for everyone listening, so we should be saying, raise your oscillation. That is, or raise your frequency, because then frequency is kind of like, we're not really using the word vibration, or, you know what I'm saying? So anyways, just want to throw that in there.
No, it's a really important one, because again, we're dealing with the physics of this creation, right? And so for anybody who doesn't understand, like, if you're a musician, you might understand this, like, if we take like a sine wave, an oscillating sine wave, right, when it's at a lower tone, you can actually physically see it. It goes up, so it has peaks and valleys, right? So the higher the tone, right, the faster that wave goes up and down with its peaks and valleys. And like you said, a higher frequency, well, then it's more compact, right? Like when I look at a high frequency tone, yeah, there's more peaks and valleys per second. Therefore, it's more compact and dense. But I love this twist, which is there's another picture that's coming when you say oscillation. That's fascinating to me, because that is now tapping into something else, like another architecture that we're not quite seeing, but we're within. And how do we get our hands back on the mechanics of that vehicle?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think we've covered everything that I wanted to go through. It's quite a bit.
Well, one thing,
yeah.
Actually, I kind of think we did, because we were going to go over some of the deceptions and distortions within the New Age, but we covered channeling, we covered Galactic Federation, death sciences and technologies. We actually covered quite a bit of them. I don't know if I'm on my phone now, so I can't look at it, because I was writing a couple of things down. Actually, yeah, I think we covered most of that stuff. I mean, listen, the list of fucking deceptions as far as that goes is really endless. Like, a silly example is, look at the peace sign. The peace sign is reverted. It's supposed to be the other way around. Why would we have one line on the bottom and three, or no, it's down. Yeah, so it's like three going down. Whatever the way it is, it's supposed to be the other way around.
Yeah. It's like, I think we came out of a certain level of darkness to realize, now we like if we just say, look at the 1960s, right, where a lot of these things started to get talked about. Okay, we got a foothold. We saw the Luciferian technology for the first time and thought it was transcendent technology.
Mm-hmm.
But I think now there's an incredible woman, if I say her name right as well, Asiana Dean. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she is also exposed. And she, again, a lot of the New Age community are like, nope, it's the flower of life or nothing at all. And they actually shut her out. A lot of the teacher you're talking about as well, they will get shut out of the mainstream. This sounds funny, the mainstream New Age, because it goes counter to so many people's careers and the curriculum that they've built upon for, say, the last 50 years. But the truth is, even the Kabbalah, the way the Kabbalah is structured, she shows, there's a couple of missing strands in the
case instead of 12 case. Yes, and that's what we have to talk about. Like, so when we talk about finite death sciences, we're talking about Kabbalistic base 10 mathematics.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the fib of no chi, the Fibonacci sequence, the fib of no chi. It is a death science, because all of it's that little like seashell looking spiral thing. Who doesn't fully know what I'm talking about. All of the numbers in that finite construct have to consume and eat the number before it in order to get larger. That there is no direct connection to the 0 point, to the number 0. So everything ends up eating the thing before it in order to grow larger. That is a part of a consumption matrix, a phantom, that is a reversal. That is life literally in reverse. So when we talk about these technologies, it is a huge deal, because we're talking about the very fabric of reality and how we interact with that as it is numbers, as it is math, literally being inverted so that it can be captured, because the true Fibonacci sequence does not have to consume the number before it. There is always, all the numbers have a direct relationship to the 0 point, to the source point. And that is how the spiral continues. So, I mean, there was something else you said. There was some other thing about New Age that, I mean, people build their entire careers off this shit. I had had a Vesica Pisces as my logo for the first 2 years of my business plus. And it came through, it had a fucking yin and yang symbol in the middle of it. Which, by the way, the white part with that little black hole, yeah, that's called a black hole that's been docked to our universe. That's an inorganic structure.
Wow.
And so I had this thing come through, and ironically, this symbol came through to me when I was coming out of a really dark period. I had no training. I didn't know what was happening, and I felt like, oh, I'm being enlightened. This image is coming through. Wow, you know, I'm going to use this for my business. And then I put a flower of life behind my head on my website because it's the spiritual thing to do. And the minute, I'm telling you, the minute that I realized that these were death technologies and I removed all of those images, I replaced everything with an open system, a tri-wave system instead of a bi-wave system, because I was no longer literally trapping and capping myself in a bi-wave structure. So look at like the symbols and stuff that we're using. Open system meanings there is free exchange of energy. There is free energy is freed up. It doesn't loop us back into the same.
That ties into everything we've been talking about, open system versus closed system. And what's in a closed system is a death trap, or something that you get recycled within or harnessed like cattle within. And our main point is that, hey, there's a giant open system. You know, sometimes I've been calling, you know, instead of Galactic Federation, like the Galactic Garden of Life. You know, at least I'm like tapping it back to something that grows, that's open, that's nourishing. But like you said, like flow, like free to go flow. Yo, you're in a state of equality of this thing that has created us. We are in power. We're free to go. We're free to move. Yet, you know, one of the main things that we're dealing with is that this structure has been hijacked, and one of our most beautiful traits has been used against us in that we are a group species. And we want to belong to a group. We are hardwired for group activity. We die. We literally die when we don't have group contact and group purpose. Those things, that beautiful architecture of the group has been used against us and manipulated and twisted, and where now to the point where we don't even want to have a family. We don't even want to have a group. We don't even want to have a community because, oh, it comes with all this shit, but the human condition. Like, you don't, like, our truth, our beauty has been used against us and then given us like these shit versions of, and capped versions of truly what we can do when we come together in like synergistic, exponential power of what is the collaborative power of us. And it's not just to have, you know, potlucks or drum circles as sold to us in the hippy dippy version of shit. It's like, yo, what does a collective look like when it rises in true authentic power in this harmony with the open system?
Yeah.
Whoa, we do really, really amazing things that are undescribable to the current civilization.
Yeah. Yeah. And look what is happening. What you just described, the exploitation of our desire to belong and our group species mentality, that is how this trauma-based mind control, which is being carried out on the whole of humanity right now, has gotten its way in, because people are so disconnected and so fucking traumatized that they don't understand. Like, it's so easy to just push people right into, well, you want to save people's lives, don't you? You want to, I mean, you care about people, don't you? Well, if you care about people, then this is what you're going to do to care about people. And you don't want people to ostracize you, right? Because that's what's going to happen to you if you stand up against what is happening. If you stand up against the mainstream narrative right now, you are either finding your tribe of people who think just like you, or you are being looked at like you're completely batshit crazy and like you're a conspiracy theorist nut whack job. And that is how we know that we are in a fallen and reversed system.
Yeah.
Because everything that you are told is crazy is actually not crazy, and everything that you are being told is sane is psychotic. So that's when it doesn't add up and you can see it and feel it for yourself, you know, oh yeah, shit got reversed. So now we're here to go in the direction of what actually makes sense.
Yeah, this came to me a couple of decades ago now. We live in an upside down, flipped around reality. It's not only upside down, it's flipped around. Like that's the double inverse. It's an interesting twist. And what Hosanna was saying too, indigenous life pre-colonization, that's really important. And this is where, you know, again, just to give honor to the surviving and thriving indigenous people who have had access to this open system, call it technology or lifestyle or civilization, before this kind of crazy global shutdown, that like right now, what we're witnessing is, hey, do the right thing, damage your DNA because you care about people, you know? And yeah, it's just sad. And I mean, this is an interesting thing I noticed in your stories too. Like, are we, and I'm kind of curious to get your opinion on this, are we about to enter a period where we will see mass death? You know, will this happen, you know, as some particularly very strange agendas go down that are anti-life? Do you feel like we'll go into a period of survival where we'll need food, or that there will be kind of mass shortages of things, or people will get, there may be just a natural death due to this kind of weird inoculation that's going on?
I think that there is a very high likelihood that we will see some type of collapse within the structure, but that collapse I think will be quite intentional. I think that is to continue to demoralize people, to continue to strip away freedoms under the guise of assistance and help. That could mean setting fire to land, flooding land, controlling weather patterns. That could mean doing that in the name of controlling water. I mean, it's said that by the year 2030, the goal is for the federal government to own 30% of the water and land. So we are seeing that that's the agenda. And so long as people allow themselves to be assimilated into this death technology, that is what will happen. As far as death goes and what the results or the fallout from this injection will be, and the technology that is used in conjunction with that injection, like 5G, that we don't even fully understand. We know that it's affecting people's electromagnetic fields. We know that it's tampering with their energy body, which has less of a capacity now to connect with their multidimensional selves. We've had lots and lots of people reporting that they've seen this on an energetic level. These are seers. These are people that have the capacity to tap into this stuff, which we need to honor, that we have people in our society that can see these things. We don't really know what I mean, there's so many theories that when all these towers and stuff get turned on and the way that this interacts, this is one theory, the way that it interacts with this injection, we don't know. People could literally, this reality has been manipulated to the point where we literally have holographic inserts placed into the matrix. So the actual fabric of what you are seeing and interacting with has been shifted. So if you don't know how to read organic from non-organic coding, you may get assimilated into a reality and a literally a holographic insert that is like, if you've ever seen the Black Mirror episode where it's like basically becomes like a VR. The person is like killing someone, and then they don't even realize that that's what they're doing because they're right. So that's a possibility. We don't really know. I don't want to throw too much of that conjecture around.
Yeah.
What I do think is that it's very clear that there's been a bifurcation of the timelines. It's very clear that we are either choosing life or we're choosing this artificial technology. And we either remember that we are eternally powerful and can heal ourselves, or we do not. And we have fallen into that structure. I believe it's possible for people to be rehabilitated out of that. I really believe that it's a lot of our intention is to not leave people behind, to be able to develop technologies to reverse some of these technologies, so that people who do wake up and like want it out of their body have that as an option.
Yeah.
We don't know, but I know that enough of us have decided we are out, we're done, and we're going to create community. And that's what myself and I think many others are in alignment with now. It's just a matter of getting together, getting resources, and actually building it.
Yeah, that was in my last live I did. I said, you know what, I've shied away from the conversation because again, there's trauma in there around us coming together as a collective and to make the family again. But I was like, you know what, I got to face up. I got to face up that this is part of my mission. I community, real community. Like I said, beyond just fucking potlucks and yoga sessions. It's like, hey, how are we building this open system community that's in harmony with existence as existence, so that when we speak, it's no longer in deception. We are looking to natural law or sacred law as the president of our community to go like, okay, well, we're just in mirror mode to our naturalness, and then creating the community from there, and whatever rhythms and support systems are necessary to sustain that and embody that.
Yeah, and this person says, well, not this person, Jerry, says, pooling skills for a sustainable life. Yeah, is again what we were talking about with the car, understanding what are you good at, what do you love doing, and then utilizing that. So people are not in that slave consciousness of I have to do this to get this. It's what do you want to do? Yeah, we're going to have to contribute to a collective, but what lights you up inside? Let's put people in those positions so that they can be really good at what they love to do and work together. I wanted to just name, because we're talking about natural law, and maybe people don't understand, like, what is natural law? What does that mean? What is it? So I have some writings here which come from a resource called the Ascension Glossary. So if any of you have maybe been aware of that, or you can look that up yourself, but it's a resource that was created by a woman named Lisa Renee. So universal laws are law of compassion. So these are the cosmic sovereign law of one, the true law of one, not the inverted RA law of one, which is that we are to take this Luciferianness as part of ourselves and integrate it. No, we are to recognize it for what it is, neutrally decline, and then create something else. So cosmic sovereign law of one is law of compassion, law of intent, law of consent to authority, and law of structure. And then the 13 principles of natural laws are law of mentalism, law of correspondence, which is also known as the law of attraction, law of polarity, law of rhythm, law of suggestion, law of response, or the golden rule, meaning how are we responding to people, law of cause and effect, law of conservation, law of transformation, law of transcendence, law of verification, law of cycles, law of vibration or resonance, and law of gender. So there, and then you can go into all of those at a much deeper level, but there are actual laws that exist, just, and then we get told that it's this, it's spiritual materialism, law of attraction. That's what we're going to do. It's like, all right, let's just slow down. And oh shoot, are you still there?
Yeah. You just
Okay.
phase that for, yeah, you can't, you're back. Good.
Like a wheelie thing. So
hopefully it wasn't a wheel of death. Feeling like, wow, we have covered so much. I want to give, I think just to confirm, because a lot of people resonating with it. Yeah, it's time for these communities. It's time to learn these laws again and again. They're not some bearded white man laws. This is, you're looking at the laws. If you pay attention to existence, you're looking at the laws already in effect. Yep. So, this is the end of the true end of deception is by working with these laws. And again, they are, how I like to say it's, these sacred laws or natural laws are basically the blockchain of the shift. And they are the universal ledger upon which you can fact check what's going on. So again, the end of deception.
Wow.
Yeah, it's here we are, and what else are we going to do? We came here with a job. So may all of us get together, get these communities and remove ourselves from the trauma and the reinitiation or revival of a broken civilization. And so it's going to take a lot of people right there. That's a lot of issue. Like, how do I pay the rent? How do, it's going to be a lot of like, how do I escape? Well, what you're healing is that you've been trying to do it alone. You've been trying to do motherhood alone. You've been trying to do family alone. You've been trying to like a home community ownership alone. And it's really like, we've got to heal the trauma and get back as collectives of power and reinstate and revive these open systems. And yeah, you can't do it alone. And what's interesting when in anthropology, when they study hunter-gatherer tribal systems, when they're in flow, work, which I don't want to use the word work anymore. There's a transformation around that word as well. But typically in hunter-gatherer societies, they worked no more than 4 hours per day. And like you said, it wasn't an exchange for love. It was just like, actually, if you didn't work that day, it wasn't any diminishment of your status or connection to love and the family and the tribe. It was it's called egalitarian. There's a lot of respect going on and a lot of understanding of like, yeah, it's not going to happen today. It'll probably happen maybe not tomorrow or next week, but there's no diminishment of care or food. You didn't get your food removed from you if you didn't work those 4 hours per day. And often those 4 hours are done through singing and moving together again in this beautiful macro body. Learning what I see happening is the revival of a nervous system, a collective nervous system that has been cleaned and that's running at a very good, healthy code level. And I'm excited to see what that's like when we move together in a 20-person pack and it's a very like unified type of thing and to go, wow, what is this macro body that we've intentionally put together?
Yeah, abso-fucking-lutely. And for you who are here and any of you who are watching this later, don't wait. What are you waiting for exactly? Start connecting with people, start networking with people. And I really want to ultimately create a resource for that networking capacity, which is something that may take me a while to build, but that's really what we need to be doing. Talk to 3 other people who maybe live in your country that, it's like, where do you live? Where do you want to live? Kind of what are your values? Because we're going to have different communities that value different things. There's going to be maybe mission-oriented communities. There's going to be, because everyone kind of has a different vibe. So finding our tribe, not to oppose any other tribe, but simply to find something that works for us, but just talk to 1 or 2 people. What really would it take to buy a couple of acres of land? What would it really take to start growing our own food? Can we bring in somebody who knows about permaculture? Can we bring in somebody who's good at building things? like start assembling a team, start asking God to bring in your community, tribe, and team, and to align you with those people, because I can promise you that if you're watching this, like, you didn't come here to be, I mean, nobody fucking came here to be alone, but if you're watching this, like, it's time to rise. It's time to, like, we need to have safe zones so that when shit does hit the fan, whatever that looks like, we have places of respite where people can come and live and be. Like, we're going to need to take people in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there will have to be what we call like sanctuary spaces, basically. And yeah, this is really the next step that I'm feeling called, and you're feeling called, and like for everyone out there, yeah, it's time to. There'll be many different versions of these communities. So yeah, I'm definitely going for a hardcore mission galactic style. I'm already like drawing up blueprints.
Yeah.
So anyone who wants to go hardcore, you know, I'm over here. I want to just say two things before we wrap this up. One, I want to have you invite people. I know you're doing something on Patreon. Where can people learn more about you or join you in what you're about to do, and what is that?
Sure. So, well, if you want to just, you can go to my website, which is my name.com. So it's just rowangarlow.com. I have all my different services and stuff listed on there, but I also just created a Patreon, which is $9.99 a month, and I'm posting constantly stuff about, well, really right now what I'm doing is assembling sort of steps for actually rehabilitating ourselves. And eventually, the more that I understand about biomechanics and the morphogenetic physics and all that stuff will start to come in too. But yeah, I'm just sharing information that some things I'm just not comfortable sharing on publicly because of reasons of being censored or whatever, shadow banned. So that's there. And then this month I have a Heal Your Mother Wound workshop, which is the last Sunday of this month. And that's also on my profile to look at that. So we're going to be going into the dark mother, which is this sort of mother reversal that's happened. What do those programs actually look like? How do we heal with the mothers in our actual physical life? It's going to be a whole fucking thing. But I do that every month. I do a different theme, and that's also on my website. You can look at that, or just on my page. Yeah.
Awesome. I definitely going to join that Patreon. I need this.
Oh.
I'm down for that. And what should we name this episode? I was thinking maybe the mechanics of our existence, but I think you might have something. What should we name this adventure we just went on?
Oh my God. How do we sum all? Maybe somebody could give it a suggestion. How do we sum all of this up in a couple words?
Ooh, renewing the open system.
Okay. Yeah.
Reviving the open system.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Okay, I'm doing that. Reviving the open system. Okay, that's the mission. Okay, love it. Wow. Well, thank you, Rowan. I thanks for not believing that I was just a 5D Luciferian. I know when we started talking, and I was like, no, really, like I'm on your level. Like, let's do this. Like, so just really, I think this live has been popping off. Everyone here, thank you for being here. It's been amazing. This will be posted on both our profiles. And yeah, this is really what's up. You know, this cannot.
I can post this on profile too.
Yeah, I'll be able to download it and I'll send it to you via email.
Oh, but I can't post it on my, I can download it too, but I can't post it directly. If it's longer than 15 minutes, it won't let.
I'll type you the hack. There's a way around that.
What?
Yeah. And if anybody needs to know, it's there. I don't know if you have a business account on Facebook, but if you have, there's a way you do have a business account with Instagram and Facebook, and through that interface, I'll send you the link that you can upload whatever. As long as it's under a certain amount of gigs, it's fine. So Yeah.
Right. Well, almost 2 hours. So
Yeah, we've almost done 2 hours, and I'm like, we could keep going, but I was like, let's. So yeah, everybody, please join that Patreon that Rowan has going on. That sounds fantastic. I'll be there. And yes, here we are. Thank you again. I think again, a lot of people have gotten so much value out of this, and that this level of conversation, I feel, is the real one to have, not just all the super fluff that is 90% of what we see out there in the, call it, New Earth movement or New Age movement. And again, we are coming back online to these open systems, the master context, not this lost little closed system that we've been looping in. And so it's like, keep going. This is just beginning. We're all networked now, and rock on, everybody. Love you so much.
yeah, thank you guys so much for being here, and thank you for having me, and thank you for suggesting this. So it felt in alignment with me, and I'm so glad that I did it. This was so much fun.
Awesome. Cool.
Have a wonderful day, you guys.
Yeah, bye everybody.
Bye.